Between the two of them, the inside of coats, Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening everyone and welcome to the AOC Gaming's League of Champions powered by VRRC. It is season 2 after all as well, forgot to mention it just then. My name is Jack Oliphant and alongside me as per usual in the virtual commentary box is Dave Marshall. We are at the circuit of Barcelona GP. Very common to those of you who watch regularly the Formula 1, often used for winter testing as well a little bit, but we have again 15 minutes of qualifying, 20-minute race and a 20-minute reverse grid race as well, so plenty of action here to be sinking our teeth into. This is of course the GT4 category of the League of Champions. We're in the third round, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Dave, it's been a hell of a championship so far at Shanghai and at Monza. It's going to be a good one tonight as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I think the drivers are struggling a little bit with the weight now on board. You know, it was obviously there at Monza as well, but a few little twisty corners, big braking areas here at Barcelona as well. And I think, you know, the drivers are quite surprised at how close the times are on the grid.
Yeah, do remind us a little bit of the, well actually I'll tell you what, remind us a bit later on because we'll go through the championship, because of course we've got to have a little bit of an overview of what the League of Champions is for anybody out there who maybe hasn't seen some of the streams before. We've already done the Ginetta Super Cup, we've already done the touring cars as well. We're in the GT4 Sprint Cup, and as I said, we're on round 3 out of the 4. Then we move on to 4 weeks of the Mini JCW on the right-hand side there as well, which I'm sure will be very exciting, and put another test for our drivers coming up as well. And we got plenty of prizes, Dave. In fact, we'll cover the prizes in a couple of minutes, because let's have a look at what happened at Monza. Driver of the round was Chris Shephard. Not only that, he took the most amount of points. He was absolutely stunning, it has to be said. Was Shephard a fantastic win from the front in race 1, and then a great recovery drive in race number 2 as well. Jack McIntyre in the McLaren, that proved probably the favoured car at Monza. He came second, and Ryan Elliott was in third. And as I said, Chris Shephard ended up winning the nice pair of AOC gaming headsets that we are supplying for each driver of the round. And heading over, I'll tell you what, Dave, you can talk us through this, because you can talk us through the ballast as well.
Yeah, so we came up with the little sim. We've got weight for the 8. So we've spread the weight down a little bit further in this championship. And yeah, as you can see, the increments go from 60 kg down to 6 kilogram in 8th place. But you can see the increments don't go up exactly level. So the whole idea in that is, the closer you get to the top, especially them top 4 positions, then weight increments really start to hurt you the further up you get. That's probably worth, give or take, maybe a second to a 1.2 seconds on the car. And I tell you what, it's really mixing things up. I'm just looking at the pre-timing sheets here before qualifying gets underway, and we've got the likes of Andy Carroll, Andy Dorman and Mick Sutton all chasing the top 3 drivers. So this is definitely going to be a good event for that.
Yeah, absolutely will. So keep an eye on the drivers when they pop up in qualifying, to just remember who's got some weight on board. Spoiler, the top 3 at the moment have weight on board, but I think they're only in practice for the next minute, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But Jack McIntyre on 671 points will take some catching. And what is he running for? Well, he's racing for this, the first place in the VRRC League of Champions GT4 Sprint Championship. Is the same as it has been in the other 2 championships, a Sim Race 5 rig, the brand new VRRC rig, built for basically people who have direct drive wheels, a little bit more sturdy than the Sim Race 3, the previous sort of go-to for VRRC, and that's what second place is running for as well. You get a Sim Race 3, as I said, for those, it can hold the direct drive wheels, it can do everything you need it to do and look good doing it as well, but maybe it's for your Logitech, your Thrustmaster and your lower end Fanatec's. Would be absolutely perfect with a Sim Race 3. Third place, the GT4 seat, which is supplied with the Sim Race 5 and the Sim Race 3. However, if you come third, you still get something. You get the fantastic seat, which is amazingly comfortable and can be set in the GT car position or the very comfortable F1 seating position as well, where you're slung a little bit lower up. Your sort of bum is almost on the floor, basically, and your legs are sort of pointed up towards the pedals rather than sort of level with them. So a very interesting seating position. Really gets you very immersed with everything that's going on. And Dave, you can talk us through some of the membership prizes, because it's not just the physical prizes that's on offer here.
Yeah, exactly that. So 4th down to 8th place, you can see we've got our different membership packages, and then basically offer everything from discounts in the store to entry to different championships, and also a bit of a status as well. You know, it's quite nice to have a pro membership over an amateur status. And yeah, it just basically means we've got prizes for the top 8 rather than limiting it. That was quite hard to say that, Jeff. Rather than limiting it, I can't say it again. Down to the top 3, you know what I was trying to say.
Absolutely do, yeah. But it's also going to culminate in a bit of a Grand Slam finale, isn't it? The end, the sprint final for the League of Champions, and boom, there it is on your screen. It's as if Tom O'Farrell on the broadcasting production side can hear us, isn't it? The finale race is race 1 is going to be the drivers that score the most amount of points over the 4 seasons or 4 championships. They'll go into that race 1, and they're racing for an AccuForce V2 Pro direct drive wheel, I believe that is, Dave. And then second place, OBP Esports pedals, which are just absolutely stunning. And the third place is the AOC 34-inch curved display that you have maybe seen in the previous sort of advert leading up to this. There's also a race 2 for those drivers who didn't quite make it into the top 10. They raced from 11th to 20th. And that gives them another opportunity, one last blast at getting the Sim Race 5, Sim Race 3 and the GT4 racing seat as well, in case they didn't manage to win one of the championships, which is unlikely, to be fair, because otherwise they may well be in the race that has 1st to 10th place. So those are all, nearly all actually, the prizes that we've got on offer here for the VRRC. But of course, there is the driver of the day prize as well, which is a lovely set of AOC gaming headphones. You basically, it used to be the PMR valeting kit. Now it is the headphones delivered by VRRC. So thank you very much to them for supplying them, and it means we can give the give driver the round to a few new people as well, and they can enjoy the fantastic sounds from their headset. Right, Dave, I suppose it's about that time that maybe we have a look at your hot lap as well, because obviously circuit Barcelona, you've been having a few laps around that. Let's have a look at one.
Yeah, one of my favourites. Let's go for it. So, across the line here at Barcelona for round 3 of the GT4 Sprint Championship powered by VRRC. Down towards turn 1, using a lot of track on the left-hand side. Down to 3rd gear, take quite a lot of apex there. The car gets a little bit of a bounce, but nothing too major. Still carried really good speed. Round turn 3 here, really hard corner. Trying to gauge how much speed to pull through it, when to lift off, when to pick it up. So that's going to be a really crucial corner from the race. Into Repsol, turn 4, down to 3rd gear again. You can see the car's just going to step out slightly there on power, mid-corner. That's quite a common theme for this track. The beautifully balanced R8 is dealing with that absolutely fine. Down towards turn 5 here, the left-hander, dropping downhill, opening at one exit. After turning quite early for that, because the car doesn't quite want to get to the apex if you're turning early enough. The same again here for turn 7. Got to turn in early than what you would expect to try and get to that apex, because the car drops into it. Up towards turn 9, this is all about bottle and bravery. How early can you get on that throttle? You can see I'm just about managing to keep that on the black stuff there, very nearly in the gravel trap. Right, in towards turn 10, traction control off, 2nd gear, a little bit of power, nice little bit of oversteer there. You've got to have a little bit of fun sometimes, don't you, on these tracks. Down towards turn 12, you can actually see I've probably cut my tyres a little bit now. It's going to step out mid-corner, just there, but using all the track on the left-hand side here, into turn 13. I love this section of track. Get on the power on third, the car just feels to pick up so quickly there. Really nice section. Out of the last chicane, see, not actually meant to get it sideways that time, just getting out onto that green AstroTurf, making it very, very slippy. Crucially, you get a good run here, because that'll be a really good overtaking opportunity. Make sure you tune in at 7:15 on our VRRC platforms on Facebook and YouTube.
And that is a lap around Barcelona from our driver coach and my co-commentator as well, Dave Marshall. And it looked very fun, it has to be said. The R8 looked good doing the sideways action, Dave, there. You noted a little bit while we were just chatting, weren't you, that you quite enjoyed taking that lap?
Yeah, you know what? It's one of them cars. The balance of the R8 is really nice, and you just afford to turn the TC off now and again, just kick it a little bit sideways, and then you just find that balance really nicely. But I've got to admit, the first time it was, influenced a little bit, but out of that last corner, you get your back wheel on that little bit of green AstroTurf down the left-hand side, the exit of that chicane, and it is really slippy. So any driver trying to take advantage through that last chicane. Actually, the section Chris Shephard's come up to now, so you can see he goes into this right. You won't want to run it too far left here, so you can open the chicane up, keep it nice and tidy through here. But if you run this with too much speed and get out there a little bit sideways, it'll take off so much speed down this straight. And I think you'll agree, Jack, this is a brilliant overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to come off the final corner, do you, with a slow exit? Sorry, I was saying time because I was just looking at Chris Shephard. Chris Shephard, absolutely flying, wasn't he? It's fantastic. 55.7. He goes to the top of the timing tower. Now, they have only been qualifying for about 5 minutes, haven't they? So maybe the lap times are still eking their way down with the rubber on the circuit, heating the tyres up, all that sort of thing. But a lot of the drivers will probably jump in to actually change their tyres over. So we are likely going to see improvements throughout. And in fact, this lap alone, we're already seeing green sectors for nearly everyone. A purple sector flying in with Jack McIntyre.
Yeah, I'm going to actually say something here, Jack, to keep an eye on. So you'll notice Chris Shephard and Callum Newsham. I know Callum Newsham's right down there in 11th place at the moment, but that's because he hasn't set a lap in. But if you look at their first sectoring compared to Ryan Elliott, Jack McIntyre, them cars that have the weight on board, you can see actually Chris Shephard and Callum Newsham are about 2 to 3 tenths faster in Sector 1. So it would suggest to me that that weight is actually really hindering them in that very first sector alone. So be interested to see what that does in the race spec as well.
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot of high-speed change directions, isn't it? I mean, turn 1 and 2 is quite a quick chicane.
By Jack.
Yeah, that's a great lap time. I thought he actually went a little bit too wide. I thought maybe he'd screwed up the last corner, but what do I know? That's why I'm here commentating and not out there in the McLaren myself. Jack McIntyre going in pole position with a 54.9, 4 tenths quicker than Chris Shephard at the moment. Ryan Elliott tried to respond, couldn't quite get it though. He's still going a little bit slower in Sector 1 as well, as he's trying to rank up the attitude of his car. Chris Shephard has got 2 green sectors though, so 4 tenths is a lot to make up without a purple sector. We'll have to see what happens though as he's coming around the final corner. Chris Shephard, it's going to be a quick one. How quick can it be? Is it going to be a pole position? No, it's not. And I tell you what, it's reduced the deficit though by, in fact, it was a terrible last sector, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was a 55 dead, but it's not. It's a 56 dead. So actually, the last sector was not ideal for Chris Shephard at all. Maybe he got a bit sideways himself.
Yeah, I think he must have done there. But I was just weighing up sectors 1 and 2, and I believe that would actually put him almost 2 tenths up the road from Jack Mack until the last sector. So Chris Shephard actually is really the one to watch here in qualifying. Looking at, actually, there you go again. Chris Shephard setting a purple sector 1 there at 33.71. I mean, to put that in comparison, even on Jack's fastest quali lap, that was a 34.0 sector 1. So he's 3 tenths advantage at the moment. If he can hook up sector 2, and you know, he's going to be neck and neck with Jack, but that'll still give him 3 tenths up the road going into sector 3. So he's got a little bit of time to play with here, and after his performance in Monza, Jack, this is not a surprising drive anymore from Chris Shephard.
No, absolutely not. In fact, he was at Shanghai, wasn't he? But he was having hardware and software issues altogether, I believe. So we didn't certainly see the best of him there, but we're certainly seeing the best of him at Monza and here today as well. Andy Carroll set 3 green sectors, by the way. He's moved himself up to 7th place, another one of the drivers that we're going to keep an eye out. On as Chris Shephard decides to just invent his own bit of track there and just cut the corner completely. I imagine that will, 1, invalidate his lap, and 2, probably not even be that much quicker either. It's a 44.25 actually, so he was still 3 tenths of a second quicker than Jack McIntyre through the second sector, but he won't finish the lap, I don't imagine. Having a look at Taylor O'Flanagan here. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, Taylor's new, isn't he?
Yeah, he is indeed, actually. He's a driver who signed up for the Academy Series, so I'll explain a little bit about what the Academy is as well, just while we're on during qualifying. So we set the Academy up purely for an entry into sim racing. It's not necessarily for entry level, I'm going to say, but it's really a key for drivers who feel like they're just starting with sim racing, or they don't want to spend the big budget in the sim leagues that they don't feel they've got a chance in. It's really aimed where it's a sim series where the pros can't enter, essentially. So yeah, he entered that. He's found his feet in it. He's doing very well in the F4 Championship, currently run on Monday nights by VRRC at exactly the same time as tonight. And yeah, he's proven himself really well in that. And he went, you know what? Fancy trying a little bit of GT4. He drives Caterhams in real life as well, so he's got really good car control anyway. But yeah, he did actually message us saying, blimey, I'm finding the M4 quite tail happy. So he is finding the car quite loose on the back end. But you know what? That's all the fun of it, isn't it?
It absolutely is as well. With the Driver Academy, you do actually get a little bit of coaching, don't you? So you do get a direct line to Dave Marshall. If you fancy having a direct line to Dave Marshall, then you can set up, you can get involved with the Academy as well. If Callum Newsham goes P2 with 3 green sectors of 55.29, that will upset Chris Shephard, won't it? A little bit.
Yeah, that's a great lap actually to see an R8 nearly taking pole lap, at fractionally slower than Jack McIntyre there. And interesting enough, sector 1 yet again 3 tenths faster than Jack. Now Jack's put it on pole here, and if he holds onto it and puts it on pole, this is what I'll be looking at as a driver. Actually, Scott Bugner putting up in the second place on the grid. What a lap by him with a 55.2 lap time. And yet again, I'm looking there, 10th and a half faster in Sector 1 again. So these drivers that don't seem to have the weight on board of the car, I don't know whether it's that huge braking zone into Turn 1 or the long right-hander, but they have the advantage at the start of the track, and that is going to be crucial at the start. If they realise that and they can use that at the start of the race to get past Jack, it's going to be a lot easier to try and defend it than trying to attack later on in the lap.
Absolutely will, yeah. Jack McIntyre, I think, is back out though. In fact, they've all the drivers are back out, so we may well see some late flurry of excitement here at qualifying for Barcelona. There is a few green sectors getting thrown about, notably one from Ryan Elliott. Andy Dorman's put a green sector too. Andy Carroll, Mick Sutton, Kenny Press are all going green as well. Chris Shephard's got a little bit quicker than his previous best as well in Sector 2, so it's Andy Dorman. So there's plenty of time out there on the circuit for these drivers to try and find as Andy Dorman comes over the line. Don't think it's an improvement for him though, unfortunately. 2 sort of yellow sectors means he hasn't improved too much. Kenny Press has put 3 green sectors together. It's not enough to lift him from 10th, but it is gotten him just that touch closer, I think, to Brad Smith, who's currently in 9th place. Here's Mick Sutton. He has put a green sector in for Sector 1. His Sector 2 is not quicker than his personal best, but it isn't bad still. He misses the apex on the right-hand side there, runs very, very wide as he tries to open up the entry into the final corner. Doesn't run too wide on the left-hand side there, using minimal scrub. And Mick Sutton goes from 8th, and in fact, no, it was disallowed. His 3rd sector was disallowed, I'm guessing, for going too wide into the entry into the last corner.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, looking at the last sector time as well, it wouldn't have really mattered. Nearly 2 seconds off the pace, so he lost a lot of time there in that sector. Just looking up and down the grid, it seems like drivers have found a little bit of almost stalemate here. Not really any drivers going massively quicker, other than Andy Dorman actually on track. Currently done a 33.8 in Sector 1, so looking very, very quick in Sector 1. But let's have a watch and see how this Beamer looks later on in this lap. It's one of them cars that we have seen being a little bit more tail happy in these slower sections of the track. That's just sometimes where that Beamer struggles to get that power down.
Jack McIntyre has gone green in Sector 1. He doesn't need to, but he's doing it. He's pushing hard, so we'll keep an eye on Andy Dorman until he finishes the lap, and then we'll probably go and have a quick glance at Jack McIntyre. Scott Bugner in 2nd place is an absolutely almighty effort, though, it has to be said. We'll come back to him and how much weight maybe he has on board as well, because Bugner's always one of those drivers that sort of sneaks up on us somewhat, and with the fantastic results that he has in the championship. Andy Dorman comes across the line. It's not an improvement in terms of positions. I think it was an improvement in terms of lap time. Yes, it was. But he's still just about a 10th of a second away from Andy Dorman. Jack McIntyre, here he is, going into the sharp hairpin at the bottom of the hill. Hard braking zone that. His weight will not be helping because it's downhill, it's heavy on the brakes. It's always a bit more difficult to stop a heavy car, and you add gravity into the mix, and all of a sudden you're in for a real troubled session. But he has gone quicker slightly in Sector 1, and what you were mentioning before, Dave, about the drivers being a couple, like 3 or 4 tenths, and it doesn't look like he's trying to push very hard here.
I think he's just trying to set the lap up, I believe. I think he's probably just trying to get them tyres in the right window, open up a gap for the driver in front, and now he's going to push for one. Brad Smith is in front, so he doesn't want to make sure he's going to catch that driver up and possibly get blocked on a flying lap. So I think he's just setting his lap up there. But what I was actually going to comment on there before was just looking at the timing sheets, looking at the difference in the top speed of the cars. Andy Dorman in that BMW, I mean, very little weight in that car, a top end speed of 150.6 mile an hour. I mean, that's about 2 mile an hour faster than any other car there on track. So I tell you what, Andy Dorman has got that car hooked up out that last corner, and that is going to be a great option for an overtake down in Turn 1 if he can hook that up.
Yeah, it's actually 2.6 miles an hour quicker than Jack McIntyre's top speed, isn't it? Which may well be a little bit of a worry for Jack Mac if Andy Dorman's starting to breathe down your neck. Another thing, ping. Now, Callum Newsham, we know, had a little bit of a troubled connection the previous couple of weeks. It doesn't look like he's got an awful lot better. As a spin for Andy Dorman. Now, I was about to say his ping isn't particularly good either. He may well be experiencing a touch of lag, maybe a freeze on the game or something like that, but he loses it coming out of the chicane, which is a real shame, and that actually didn't help Andy Carroll at all either, did it? He was on a green sector 1, and obviously not a green sector 3 because he was a little bit slow around the final corner. Yeah. Jack McIntyre not improving at the moment. Only Kenny Press improving. No, he doesn't need to at all, does he? Because nobody else is improving.
You know what that actually looked a bit like to me there, Jack, and I could be very wrong in this, but that almost looked like Andy Dorman committed to coming out that chicane there and actually flicked the TC switch off on the car to try and get it to stop cutting in. That's what it looked like, how quick that snapped from like gripping up to then oversteer. That might have been him just, you know, flicking off that TC button and, you know, seeing what it'll do, but it didn't really work for him, did he? Because he went backwards into the pit lane.
Yes, it's. I don't imagine he'll be doing it in the actual race. Lots of drivers crossing the line now, and of course the checkered flag has dropped, which means the only driver that, you know, realistically is out there trying to set a lap time is Taylor O'Flanagan. Andy Carroll has gone all right in sector 1. We'll have to keep an eye on him for sector 2, but everybody else is pretty much in the pit lane now. So what you see is, we suspect what you get at the moment, but a good qualifying by Jack McIntyre. He's got 70 kilos on board. 60 kilos on board.
Yeah, so massive weight, really, and to still put it on pole, but look at how close it is. It's a very, very close competition this round, and I tell you what, I think it's going to probably be a really interesting one to watch on the first lap. It's not going to be a done and dusted deal. We've seen Scott Bugner and how he races, and you know if there's a gap there, Scott will be going for it.
He will indeed. And in fact, I was about to say, Dave, why don't you go and have a chat to our pole sitter? But he's already joined us. He's already joined the broadcast, so why not introduce him, Dave, and go ahead.
Well, indeed. So, yeah, Jack McIntyre, a little bit of a surprise. 60 kg on board of your car, and yet still managing to do just enough to put it in pole. The only driver in that 54 bracket. But I take it you're looking at the lap times and thinking that's not going to be an easy first lap.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good lap, to be fair. That's the fastest lap I've done so far out of all the practice and everything. So, yeah, chuffed to do that one in quali. Just kind of hooked it up, and to be fair, I think this is just I said last week, this is a track that I really enjoy, and the way that the car drives around here just suits me to a T. So it's even though the ballast's there, it's all just working really nice. So yeah, chuffed with that, and yeah, like you say, down into turn 1 might be a bit interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I was talking about this in qualifying to Jack here quickly, and the thing I noticed was the drivers with the weight, so you, Ryan Elliott, them drivers seem to be struggling quite a lot in sector 1 compared to everyone else. Do you think that's the long right hander, or is that mainly the big braking zone at the end of the straight?
Maybe a bit of both. Following a few cars through quali there, noticed that especially a few of the Astons were really fast through that right hander, and I don't know if they're flat or not, but it's definitely not flat with all this weight on, so it might be a bit of that, but probably down the straight as well won't help a little bit with all the weight.
Well, looking forward to seeing how you deal with putting it from pole and possibly taking the win in race 1. Huge congratulations, Jack, on putting it on pole. That's one of the hard jobs out the way, I think you'll agree, and looking forward to seeing how you get on.
Thank you, mate.
That was Dave Marshall chatting to our pole sitter, Jack McIntyre. So a very quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with race 1. don't they just look awesome? I'm still waiting for Rich from VRRC to send me one of them. Anyway, you're looking at your grid, and you may well notice that there's a driver right at the back of the field. Well, that's because we've had a latecomer in that advert break that we've just been having. We have had Max Edmondson join us for the race as well. So brilliant to have him along. He's rightly put himself right at the back, and he's got a pretty big gap as well, so he's not going to ruin anybody's race from back there for turn 1. Will give him quite a lot of momentum into turn 1 because he's got a lot of space to break into. And I think we got Taylor O'Flanagan may well be starting from the pits. In fact, we got Dave. Can you quickly give us the update?
Yeah, I can indeed. So that is just a case of he's quite new to the sim race and he didn't quite understand how to start the race. So unfortunately, he teleported back to pits and he will be starting from the pit lane. But you know what? It's all a learning curve. He's in good spirit. He says, no bother, I'll crack on. So he'll just be joining onto the grid once the grid pulls away. But, you know, you're commenting about Max Edmondson coming in very, very late. He might, I believe, have just come in from work and literally joined there. But actually, he's not in the worst scenario. I know he hasn't qualified and he's not right up the front. But if you're starting a race, it's not a bad place to be. Look at the space he's got and he can gauge that grid a little bit easier.
Exactly, he's got a lot of space to break into, but we'll see how he gets on, as well as everybody else on the field, because we've got the light about to come up on our screen. In fact, here we go. So as the engine notes rise, the lights come on, and we are racing for the first time here on a Tuesday night. And I tell you what, it's a poor start from Scott Bugner in the Audi. In fact, no, it was Callum Newsham in the Audi, wasn't it? Jack McIntyre got a hard decent start. It's a very, very long way down to T1, though. What can Scott Bugner do? He's trying to cover it off. McIntyre, look how defensive he goes. He just about had enough room to get his nose across. And Bugner's trying to go around the outside of T1. Now that's possible because you've got the inside for T2. But it's not easy. Possible is not easy. And McIntyre holds the position. Bugner in second, Elliott in third, and Shephard in fourth, going very wide.
That was absolutely fantastic to see, wasn't it? I mean, look at this. Still down to the right-hander, almost 3 abreast behind. Look at that. Callum Newsham just backing out there to make it 2x2. But I tell you what, he's going to have a good run out of here. Will he manage to get that outbreak on Ryan Elliott? I don't believe so. Ryan Elliott up the inside of Chris Shephard there. Chris Shephard slightly late on the brakes. And is Callum Newsham going to manage to follow Ryan Elliott through here in the left-hander up the hill? But we've seen the poke of that Aston. It's got some momentum. Oh, there's a punt there. Chris Shephard into the back of Ryan Elliott. Callum Newsham is through up the inside. Ryan Elliott is dropping down. Look at this. Massively down the grid. And there's Kenny Press off in the gravel as well. So huge drama. Andy Dorman trying to go around the outside of Chris Shephard going down towards the hairpin. And I'm going to need to take a breath.
Yeah, you said about the poke of the Aston Martin. I don't think that's exactly what you intended there. He sent the McLaren flying into the gravel trap. But Chris Shephard, he's going to have an apology to make after that. He's probably going to be off someone's Christmas card list as Andy Dorman goes past Mick Sutton. Callum Newsham, after a terrible start, has all of a sudden inherited 2 places and is now on a podium position. Scott Bugner, I think, is still hounding the race leader, Jack McIntyre, who, by the way, did a very good job at keeping Bugner at bay. But we know Bugner's got a good exit out of here as well. What can he do with the lack of weight on board? He still has weight. I think he has about 20-something kilos on board, but Jack McIntyre has 60.
Oh, here he goes.
There's a big difference. And in fact, there's a lot of slipstream occurring now. Is Bugner going to go for the move? He looks to the inside into turn 1 into the braking zone. That's a late break move by Scott Bugner, and he's going to send it a little bit wide, but he stops it. He manages to stop it just about. He has compromised his left-hand apex speed, and that's allowed McIntyre to just go through. I thought Bugner had it because he just stopped on the apex, and I thought McIntyre would have to slow up as well, but he nudged him out the way, McIntyre. But not having any of it, though, into turn 4, and it's a very close, good racing respect from both of them, giving each other room, but it is heating up. These McLarens are going at it, and I think this is McIntyre. If they had no weight on board, McIntyre would have the pace. But with the weight, with the ballast, it's equaling each other out. And Bugner is throwing everything at him.
This is brilliant racing. I've got a huge grin on my face. The race and the respect between these 2 drivers so far. This is just pure, hard, good, fair racing. Scott Bugner, what an undercut there. Brilliant move up the inside of Jack McIntyre. Straight away, a mark already on the board for possible driver of the day. That brilliant move.
Well, that is something we have forgotten to mention. I'll mention it in a minute and how you can help us pick driver of the day. Because right now, we've got to carry on watching Bugner Dive to the outside, McIntyre going defensive as he has to, as he would, as he should. And all this is allowing Callum Newsham to come back into the party. But to be fair to these two drivers, actually, they're still keeping up a semi-decent pace and keeping it ahead of Newsham, even though Newsham has purple Sector 1. That Sector 2 really hurt both of these drivers. So you can see, actually, at the top of, we're on board with Bugner, in his rear view mirror at the top there, you can see just how close Newsham's getting and just how far over the curb that McIntyre's launching this car. This is going to be, well, it's going to be basically all race long, isn't it? But Bugner's now in the slipstream, Dave.
Yeah, and Newsham's in the pit, so I don't know whether this is a jump start by Newsham. That's a disaster. He was
going for it.
Oh, I tell you what, Scott Bugner with the move up the inside of Jack Mack. I don't think there's much Jack Mack can do about this. He's going to put it around the outside of Scott Bugner into the left-hander. Scott Bugner's holding it around the outside, but I think that is job done. Scott Bugner, what a fantastic move. I tell you what, I mean, the respect between these two drivers at the moment is absolutely fantastic to see as well. Scott Bugner's going to hold the inside line, defend it from Jack Mack here. This is going to be a really hard job for Jack Mack with that extra weight to try and find a place to get that overrun and get a clean move done. Brilliant racing so far.
Yeah, the weight transfer in that McLaren is going to feel very, very slow and sluggish, isn't it? Whereas Bugner's, which will probably not feel quite on point with the extra weight he's carrying, will feel an awful lot better than McIntyre. And he'll be able to break that touch later going down the hills as well. He'll be able to transfer the weight in chicanes like this. So there we go. Bugner running very well through the chicane. He's going to go through the right hand, flick it in. McIntyre's got a fantastic entry. But to be fair to Bugner, he got on the power really early there and covered off any potential move that McIntyre was thinking going down the hill. McIntyre's far too far back unless he names Jason Plato, in which case it's still too far back, but he would probably go for it. Bugner in the race lead.
Jack McIntyre doing a brilliant job here to just keep showing his nose, but it's completely clean. I'm just keeping an eye on a battle that's happening further back between Taylor O'Flanagan, Mick Sutton, Brad Smith, and look who's on the back of that, Callum Newsham as well. So this is a brilliant four-way battle, and actually it's a relatively safe battle as well. Kenny Preston's a long way back, but I tell you what, this is a battle all the way from 7th to 10th place. Remember that reverse grid race, but Taylor O'Flanagan doing a brilliant job of holding back Mick Sutton and Brad Smith, yet two other drivers that he's used to racing with in the academy. But look at Callum Newsham already all over the back of Brad Smith here as well. So I tell you what, this battle is going to heat up very shortly.
Yeah, Taylor O'Flanagan in a bit of a heated battle here. But has he just come into the pits? He has. Taylor O'Flanagan is into the pit lane. Mick Sutton, Andy Carroll, Ryan Elliott. Ryan Elliott goes past Andy Carroll, I believe. Even there we go. We can see evidence of it on our screen. That McLaren, after being poked wide by Chris Shephard, who's currently in 3rd place, thanks to the fact that Callum Newsham went into the pits. Looking at the inside was Andy Carroll, a little bit optimistic, it has to be said. Probably would have been a bit of a dive bomb. Here comes Callum Newsham on Brad Smith. Up the inside he goes. Nice job done on those stealth bomber style Aston Martins, don't they? They look very nice, but not much of a livery, but sometimes that's actually quite nice to just grey them all out and black them all out. It's absolutely awesome.
Almost quite evil, some would say.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how they present the cars before each championship, before they actually have, you know, the liveries on board. Sometimes the cars look better when they're just carbon fibre than when they actually stick the liveries on.
I'll be truly honest, Jack. I think actually your brother's car, Tom in the Beamer, them cars in British touring car actually look really quite stealthy well. They've got that really quite sort of menacing, evil look about them, and they certainly do go well enough as well.
They do look very good. I mean, I was thinking of the Seat Leons, the new Seat Leons that Team Hard are running in the touring cars, and when they announced them and they showed the shell, and it was just carbon fibered. Oh my days, they looked very, very nice. But as soon as they stuck all the livery on them, they just look like Astras now, in my opinion. They just look like a generic hatchback, rather not specifically the Astra, but just a generic hatchback.
Oh, a huge snap there from Callum Newsham, taking a lot of curb. You will notice, I think that's where one of the McLarens have a little bit of that advantage over the R8, which is obviously a very similar platform, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive. But the R8 just doesn't seem to soak them bumps up quite as well. Here we go, straight up Aston poke against R8, and you can see more or less neck and neck, but it's just the end of that straight where the Aston's going to have that advantage. But I tell you what, Callum Newsham on the brakes, you can see the car weaving, trying to get the car stopped, and Mick Sutton filtering in. Brilliant racing between these two. Meanwhile, up the road, Scott Bugner and McIntyre still absolutely neck and neck, fighting for a possible win here.
Yeah, I think the reason why they were weaving about and accidentally sort of squirreling around on the braking is actually because they ended up touching each other, and that was always going to happen. They were running just a touch too close to each other going down to T1. They actually got away with it not being a huge incident. McIntyre flying, but not as quick as the man that's catching them both up here. Chris Shephard, purple in Sector 1, quicker by half a second in Sector 1 as well. So he's catching them hand over fist here. And they've got to be careful because there's still about 11 minutes left. They're going to have to stop fighting each other and get gone because they're going to know just how quick Chris Shephard is. And Chris is a lot less weight on board than both of these drivers, thanks to the fact that at Shanghai, he obviously didn't really finish any of the races. And at Monza, he did very well, but not good enough to really put himself into a championship winning position, meaning he doesn't have that much weight on board, basically. He may well do after this round, if he can carry on with the pace that he's got around Barcelona, but it's not happened quite yet. Smashing the curves left and right, no need to cut anything there for Chris Shephard, as McIntyre will be in the slipstream, but he'll have the heavier car. Let's keep an eye on how well he'll do. I think Scott Bugner is tempted to go slightly defensive here, as McIntyre is closing the gap.
Yeah, and actually, I'm just keeping an eye on Andy Dorman as well. Up into P4, obviously Ryan Elliott's excursion into gravel helped that. But Andy Dorman with a fantastic drive here. I've just noticed Jack's actually looking a little bit, I don't want to say it, but looking maybe a little bit scrappy, trying to keep up with Scott Bugner here. Scott Bugner seems to be able to hold this pace while looking a little cleaner. Jack's car, probably with the weight, he's having to drive it a lot harder to try and find the time. And whether that means it's going to cook his tyres a little bit more, wait and see. But I tell you what, Chris Shephard on that last lap, 0.3 of a lap faster than Scott Bugner in the lead, but over half a second faster than Jack McIntyre in second place. So Chris Shephard is the guy on the move. And I tell you what, 9 minutes left of this race, this could lead it with 3 possible chances to go, 3 possible drivers to take the win.
Yeah, which is exactly what we love to see, obviously, as well, isn't it? And it really opens up the championship somewhat. I'm just having a look at the championship. In fact, Jack McIntyre, 71 points at the moment, leading the way. Now, if you're looking at Scott Bugner, he's got 53 points in 4th place. So there's not going to catch McIntyre up massively if it stays like this, as Bugner wins, but there will still be a close of the gap. And to be fair to Bugner, actually, Dan Zelos isn't here tonight, and he's only 3 points ahead of Bugner. Dan Zelos 3rd, Bugner 4th. So all of a sudden, Bugner is in a GT4 winning position if he actually does basically if he finishes tonight, essentially. But with the win, he's going to do very well.
Yeah, Ryan Elliott on 60 points in 2nd. I mean, Scott Bugner on 53 in 4th. Scott Bugner currently on for the win here. Ryan Elliott back in 5th. So actually, this is looking really quite promising for Scott Bugner, really putting the pressure on 2nd and 3rd place for the championship here.
It is indeed, but you got to remember that reverse grid as well. Ryan Elliott, if he stays in 5th place, he will jump Scott Bugner by a good 5 places, and then it could all change again. And the reverse grid always provides us some entertainment, and drama is probably more of the word as well. Just having a look, I was actually looking for Chris Shephard. Now, you said we got weight for 8, so Chris Shephard does have weight on board. He's in 6th place in the championship at the moment. He's
18 kg, yeah.
18 kilograms on board, and I think 8 points, if my quick maths is correct. 8 points behind Scott Bugner. So again, just a good result here by Chris Shephard. Maybe not on this particular race, but maybe the reverse grid as well. Can really throw his name right up into the fight for the top 3 as well, because Dan Zelos is going to plummet here. He's already won a Sim Race 5 for winning the touring cars, Dan Zelos, so I'm sure he won't mind too much. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities for driver to move their way up, isn't there, tonight?
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm completely honest, I know Dan really quite well, and he enters a lot of these championships, not necessarily for the prizes, but he just loves sim racing and wants to try and get better at it, and he thinks it's really aiding his real life hopes as well. He finds it a lot easier to race wheel to wheel. He feels his awareness is a lot better because it's all seat time that is that expensive to get in real life. So there's a lot of real life drivers find it actually a really good training aid to help them get faster and faster in the real world and help their championship hopes in the real life.
Well, indeed there is, because there's obviously a full businesses that are opened up purely for race simulation training, isn't there? The likes of iZone and Base and SimTrack and everything like that as well. And obviously you can get remote training from the likes of Dave Marshall and 10/10 coaching and all those sort of things as well. But there are still even businesses dedicated to bringing in real world drivers to try and hone their skills with real driving coaches as well, in terms of real life sort of driving coaches like SimTrack and iZone, as I've mentioned. So plenty of experience out there, both in real world and sim racing, and it's starting to amalgamate quite nice as well. And we're starting to see drivers who are very quick in the sim race with drivers who are very quick in real life, maybe slightly new to sim racing as well, and seeing them on track. Because Dave, at the end of the day, I mean, I've been in a few races with people that, during the lockdown in 2020, I was in races that with people I never thought I would ever get the opportunity to have a race with, and I've raced in real life. So it must be such a buzz for drivers who never had the opportunity to race in real life, not off lack of talent or anything like that, but of lack of opportunity. To be on the same grid as people like the likes of Jason Plato, Michael Crease, and that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm completely honest, I mean, you only have to sort of take me as an example of where sim racing's took me. I managed to win 2 competitions myself, and it's put me in the hands of a real car next weekend at the end of September at Silverstone. The budget alone, there's not a chance I would have had the opportunity had sim racing not been the platform to start from for myself. So yeah, sim racing I think had this stigma, but actually the way sponsors have looked at it and took it on board, I think they've realised how beneficial it can be for exposure and the likes of that. So yeah, for me, I can't praise sim racing enough, and that's the benefits of it is absolutely massive as well. So I think it's just going to keep going up, and it's the amount of people I've met through it as well is absolutely insane. So, but as I talk about being insane, Jack McIntyre here, a team that I have raced in with Jensen Button actually, and been teammates with Jack in that as well. I know how good of a driver he can be, and these are the moments he absolutely thrives in. Scott Bugner in front, and I tell you what, you think he would be feeling the pressure at the moment, wanting to get past, but he's just sat there, he's just calculating what Scott Bugner's doing and trying to figure out where on the track he's faster, and then he'll make his move, make his pounce, and make sure he's not going to shrug off that time that he's gained trying to calculate all that.
Yeah, we'll see if Bugner will crack under the pressure, but look at the closing speed that McIntyre is able to put in the entry, of course. Racing, you want to be slow in, fast out, so I'm sure Bugner won't be too worried as long as he's getting good exits, and he'll put a little bit of distance between himself and McIntyre. But look at that, McIntyre crawling all over the apex. He's really hooking us up. We were worried about Shephard coming in and ruining the party for these guys. Shephard's an extra 2 seconds down the road, so a full 4 seconds down the road from these guys. McIntyre starting to put the pressure on now with 3.5 minutes to go. Bugner probably thought he could slightly relax at one point during this race, but he certainly can't now. Let's see what he's getting up to. Callum Newsham has put a purple sector 1 in. The track is getting quicker. The drivers are getting slightly quicker. In fact, these drivers are actually putting their best lap times in at the moment. McIntyre getting a nice tight exit there. Bugner getting on the power. How much is he racing in his mirrors here? That's the question we're all going to ask. So far, he's hitting his apexes. He's hitting his braking zones. He's not worrying too much what McIntyre's doing. That's not a move that's ever on, and Bugner knows it. Going through the fast right-hander now into the slow chicane. Bugner just needs to nail the exit of this right-hander, and then more crucially, the final corner, a little bit of a squirrel. Is that going to hurt Bugner? No, actually, it ended up setting him up perfectly for the straight. But McIntyre, although a mile an hour down or two because of that weight, he will have the slipstream. How much is it going to help his advantage now? Hugging the white line is Bugner on the right-hand side. McIntyre's going to have to go round the outside. Late on the brakes, last of the late breakers, is Bugner still ahead. Only just, though.
Yeah, I mean, Jack there, look at him. He's all over the back now. He can sniff the win out here, but Scott Bugner coping with this pressure very, very well. Very impressive drive, if I'm honest, at the moment. But another driver soaking all this pressure up. Andy Dorman there with Ryan Elliott tucked in behind. We've seen how fast Ryan Elliott can be and how easy he can get past people. But I tell you what, Andy Dorman's doing a brilliant job to keep both Ryan Elliott and Andy Carroll true and behind him here. Really good job.
Yeah, and Rebecca Dawson's actually come on the YouTube chat and said that for her, Ryan Elliott is the driver of the round so far, because obviously getting knocked off and then coming back through the way he has into 5th position and piling the pressure on Andy Dorman, although Dorman looks semi-comfortable. 90 seconds left to go. I think that as long as Dorman's back end doesn't give him any jip, I think he'll probably be pretty happy with this performance. That's Rebecca Dawson's shout for driver of the round as well. So maybe that's a name we'll have to remember a little bit later on. Ryan Elliott. McIntyre, though, this is going to have to be a drive we're going to have to keep a focus on, isn't it? Because it's for the race lead. Now, Bugner's doing a very good job, Dave, because he's not panicking. He's not defending into corners that there is no need to defend in. That's exactly what McIntyre's trying to do, isn't it? He's trying to make Bugner come offline when there isn't necessarily a need to come offline, but he's trying to throw those fakes in there.
Yeah, exactly. We saw on the lap before, Jack McIntyre just showing his nose in the corner where there's never an overtake going to happen there. But he's really just trying to get Scott Bugner to look in that mirror, take a little bit of that focus off and possibly miss the next apex, and then he'll pounce. So, yeah, Jack Mac's just trying all them little tricks just to take away the attention of Scott Bugner in front. But Scott's a very good racer in real life, and, he knows all the tricks in the book. So this is a one that is going to go down to the wire, that is for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you just saw a little flick to see if he can look up the inside McIntyre. It was never really on. It would have been overly ambitious, to say the least. But he's there. He's giving it a go, and he's filling the mirrors of Bugner here. There's a really nice exit there, but I think Bugner's just going to have the inside line, into turn number 4. But I tell you what, McIntyre, he's gone in too hot. He's gone in too deep. Bugner is going to lose this race lead, but for how much longer? Because he's going to have the inside for the left-hander. Now, if he can get the car stopped on the apex and cut off that undercut, indeed he has. He's just got his car positioned just in the right place. I don't think McIntyre is going to carry it around the outside here. It's going to be a death warrant if it is, and he's just trying to catch that undercut yet again. There we go. He's trying to go for that inside. Scott Bugner's got his pace is cut out for him here as we're coming. Well, we are on the last lap, actually. The checkered flag is going to drop at the end of this, and it's going to drop for one of these two drivers. Or is it, actually? Because let's hope they don't make contact with each other. Bugner going defensive, but that's a fake. Up the inside goes McIntyre. McIntyre flew up the inside, but he stopped. I think he knew that was probably a little bit too ambitious and that he'd slam into the side of Bugner. No one wants to see that. So he stopped the car, he let Bugner go through, and I think that means Bugner maybe have just enough room to get this race victory.
Yeah, you know what, if I'm completely honest, I think that was a case of both drivers properly enjoying this battle and just trying things, just going for it. Jack clearly wants the win here, but Scott Bugner's done a fantastic job to take the race 1 win. What an absolute well-deserved victory there. You can see over to the right-hand side to, celebrate with his team that actually aren't on the pit wall, but I bet he's absolutely chuffed with that. I tell you what, Chris Shephard, not too far off the back of them either. Going to be really interesting to see how these drivers get on in race 2.
Yeah, sometimes it does help that those two drivers were fighting so hard, because as I said, they did extend that gap to Chris Shephard by 2 seconds over the course of about 7 minutes. So that's quite impressive. Andy Dorman. Anyway, let's run down the order, shall we? Scott Bugner wins just ahead of Jack McIntyre, but it wasn't for the long to try. Chris Shephard was in 3rd place. Andy Dorman in 4th. Ryan Elliott in 5th. Andy Carroll was in 6th. Callum Newsham in 7th. Mick Sutton came home 8th. Brad Smith is just about home in 9th place, with Kenny Press, the last driver to be taking the flag, as I think Taylor O'Flanagan, unfortunately, was in the pit lane. So as Kenny Press comes across the line, Dave, let's not mess about, because no one wants to hear my voice. They all want to hear the voices of the podium sitters, Dave. Go for it.
Yeah, we'll go straight to our 3rd place finisher, Chris Shephard. As Jack McIntyre actually spins out. Glad he didn't do that in the race there. Chris Shephard, fantastic effort putting it into P3 in the race 1. Just not quite the pace to get onto the back of the P2 and P1 finishers. But I bet you must be fair thinking this race 2 could be a chance to get through the grid.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad race. They just had a bit more consistency, I think, over the course of the race. I was just pushing on certain laps, trying to find a bit more time, trying to do different lines and stuff, but ultimately it just cost me time, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a good race.
Yeah, well, I could be wrong in saying this, but I'm fair sure that you did actually do the fastest lap of the race, so you've definitely got the outright pace there, but you may be right in what you're saying, just the consistency, maybe that McLaren just being that little bit easier to find that consistent pace with, but still a fantastic job bringing it home in P3, Chris, and looking forward to seeing how you can do it in race 2 as well.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I'll move forward on our P2 finisher, Jack McIntyre. I imagine with a massive grin on your face, that's the sort of race that it could have gone on for another 20 minutes, couldn't it?
Yeah, what a race. That was, I really wanted to win, but, to lose like that and to have so much fun, I'll take that any day. Second place is still second place. So, yeah, well done to Scott. And it was a really good, fair race. And I had to go for it down into that last hairpin, but then I think it was just a little bit late and I made some contact, so backed out of it. But, yeah, great race.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair job and a fair good overtake opportunity when I'm off my feet, and I literally was that time. It was an excellent little dart out, and it would have been a fantastic move if you pulled it off. But fair play, very good sportsmanship there to accept when it's maybe the move isn't quite on there. But I would have quite happily watched that race go on for another 20 minutes, to which we're gonna hopefully see something similar to that. How do you think race 2 is gonna go for you?
Who knows? Reverse grid, everything's up in the air a little bit. Got a good pace in the car, so yeah, we'll see. It's all going to depend on the first few laps, I think, just see what happens. Hopefully not too many incidents, and then try and climb up the order from there.
Well, fantastic effort, Jack. Looking forward to seeing how you get on in race 2. I'll move forward.
Cheers, Dave.
We'll move forward on our P1 finisher, Scott Bugner. You must be absolutely ecstatic with that win.
I wasn't expecting it coming in, I must be honest. I haven't done a lot of laps, but yeah, got a good start. And me and Jack just sort of got a gap, and I sort of looked behind and I thought, oh, well, now's my time to push. And once I got in the lead, I made a couple of mistakes and it kept bringing him closer and closer. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And that one was for my grandma, who unfortunately passed away on Thursday. But she used to watch this and watch me race in real life as well. So that one was for her.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Scott. Condolences with you, and I'm sure you should be very proud with that win. Congratulations, mate, and look forward to seeing how you get on in race 2.
Thank you.
And that was Dave Marshall speaking to our race podium sitters and our victor. And again, our condolences do extend out to the Bugner family. Anyway, on to race 2. I believe. Plenty of action coming up, isn't there? We've got 2 minutes until we're going live with it, Dave. There's quite a lot of drama there at the end, especially race 1 doesn't always provide us with out-and-out action all up and down the field. Sometimes it's a little bit more measured. People want to score the points, and qualifying means you're sort of separated into roughly where you should be and sort of equal out and everything like that, don't you? However, race 2 is a different barn, isn't it? It's a different barnstorm. I mean, you can quite often be mistaken for a full reverse grid here. Obviously, it's only the top 10, but it's very action-packed. Yeah,
it is indeed. And to be fair, I'm actually going to sidetrack a little bit here, Jack. While we're paying our condolences, there was unfortunately a Marshall lost in the recent Brands Hatch race. And we do have a link on our YouTube page underneath, where you can go to the Just Given page to pay your respects and pay donations towards the family, up to a staggering £33,000 at the moment. And without these sort of marshals, real motorsport just wouldn't be a possibility. So from VRRC, and I'm sure you as well, Jack, our massive condolences to the family. And let's hope the drivers go forward and continue to pay the respects to the marshals out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've come across plenty of marshals. We know plenty of marshals who do sim racing, Dave, as well. And
we do,
to be honest, they're fantastic people. And I've been a victim of crashing, and then the marshals having to clean up my car and everything like that. And to be honest, they do it with a fantastic smile on their face. And they come up to me and they ask, "Oh, are you okay?" and get your car off and everything like that. And of course, you just crashed your car and everything. You got a face of thunder. You don't want to talk to anybody. But they're there with a smile on their face, clearing the cars up and everything like that. And to be honest, it's just brilliant to have them doing what they need to do. And without them, we wouldn't have motorsport in general. We wouldn't even have the evolution of sim racing or anything like that. They're absolutely essential. Exactly. And if you do want to contribute, then that link is in our description.
Yeah, and actually our race broadcaster here, Tom O'Farrell, has done his fair share of marshing as well. So big respect to you, Tom. You are on my car for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, we are now back towards the racing, so we have to get ourselves hyped up once again because the lights are about to come on our screen. Kenny Press on pole position. The engine notes rise, and the American BMW is about to take the lead. And I think he's about to lose it as Brad Smith gets an absolutely awesome start off the line. Mick Sutton, I think, got a semi-decent start. It's a long way down to T1, as we've mentioned before. I think that's Callum Newsham darting right to the inside already. Fancying a big lunge up the inside, potentially. And I think, actually, Ryan Elliott's going to have a problem with him. But Brad Smith goes into the race lead. Kenny Press couldn't even hold the race lead for a corner, but he's going to have second place potentially. Ryan Elliott's causing himself mischief here, and he's gone into third place. Callum Newsham into second. Kenny Press has gone down to fourth. That's Mick Sutton spinning
Mick
around.
Sutton. Yeah, Mick Sutton with a spin at the back of the grid. That is a real shame. But I tell you what, that was about 3 abreast through both of them corners. And how there wasn't more contact there, I do not know. Andy Carroll there with a very, very strange spin. Don't know whether you saw that, chap, but that was like a quarter spin and then just managed to get it back there. So I don't know whether that was a little tap or what. But I tell you what, Jack McIntyre up into 4th place already.
Yeah, McIntyre doing fantastically well considering he started in 9th. Scott Bugner's not had quite the same impact, shall we say. He has just moved up to 6th place, in behind Chris Shephard. Not a bad place to be, it has to be said, if you want to carve through the field. But Brad Smith must be feeling very pleased with himself at the moment because he's leading the way. And I tell you what, Dave, he's leading it well as well, isn't he? Because Callum Newsham is close, but he's not exactly right on the bumper just yet.
No, he isn't. Brad Smith doing a very good job out front. And actually, we saw this in the academy last night. He led for 3/4 of the race in the F4, but unfortunately just got bit in the later stages with a little spin. So let's hopefully I don't do a commentator's curse, but Callum Newsham looking all over him. Brad Smith, maybe I would say over-defending here a little bit. That's what's costing him so much time. And unfortunately, that mistake there meant Callum Newsham got backed up and Ryan Elliott and Jack McIntyre just found the door straight through. Not a lot Callum Newsham could have done there. Really bit by that.
Scott Bugner's got past Chris Shephard as well, and that's pretty big news as Ryan Elliott hunts down Brad Smith. Now the Aston Martin's got a fantastic engine. We've mentioned it before, but into the braking zone. Elliott is looking at the inside and there's a touch and he's forced Brad Smith wide. Not huge, massive contact, but enough to make him lose the apex, lose the race lead, and then some as well as Newsham comes back on the circuit. Absolutely smashes into the side of, I think that was Andy Dorman. Dorman came off without any problem, but it hasn't gone well for Newsham. As up the inside here, Chris Shephard trying to defend off Bugner, maybe try and find a way past Brad Smith as well as looking to the race lead. Jack McIntyre is looking to try and retain the race lead that he had in the beginning of race 1, but Ryan Elliott's going for it as well, trying to defend it off. McIntyre just about successfully does so for now.
Yeah, exactly that. This is turned into another race 1 battle, isn't it? 2 McLarens up the front, Jack McIntyre and Ryan Elliott here.
Oh,
brilliant
Brad
battle
Smith
going
spins.
on. Was that Brad Smith? You know what? I thought I caught the glimpse there at the front of a car and I just missed who it was. Unfortunately, Brad Smith finds himself in the gravel trap there. Scott Bugner up into P3. He's one of them drivers who just waits for things to happen, doesn't he? And he just picks them spaces up. Look at this. A brilliant run out the hairpin by Jack McIntyre. Up the inside of Ryan Elliott. Is he going to manage to brave it? Doesn't quite get to the apex before Ryan Elliott there. Ryan Elliott's going to have a little push out wide here, I'd imagine. Typical karting manoeuvre. Ryan Elliott obviously used to be massively into the karting at the younger age, and we're seeing a lot of them driving techniques coming out here. But Jack Mack has got that eye on the prize again. He's hungry for that first place. But look who's behind. Scott Bugner, not too far away. We're seeing the lap times he can do. And if these two start tripping over each other, watch Scott Bugner for the possible win. Yeah,
Bugner's going to start chasing them down, that's for sure. Apparently there's a suggestion that Shephard may have hit Smith, which is why Smith ended up going round, as we're now looking at Tyler O'Flanagan. But right now we're keeping an eye on the race lead, aren't we? Because Jack McIntyre and Ryan Elliott, this is going to be a fascinating battle. This is first and second in the championship as Elliott goes wide to try and get that nice exit, but leaving the door open is always a touch scary, isn't it? When you got someone as opportunistic as Jack McIntyre breathing down your neck. Bugner, Shephard, and Dorman are the next few drivers. Then you got Newsham, and this could well be lining up to a 5-way battle or 6-way battle for a race lead here, Dave. And I'm all here for it because we've got 15 minutes and these drivers are already putting moves on each other. McIntyre to the outside. And I'll tell you what, that is an awful lot of speed he had to carry to try and hold it.
Wow.
And to be fair, he's held it on the outside, but he's not going to get the move done because Elliott knows full well it's not a 2x2 corner. McIntyre goes for the cutback, tries to launch it all over the curve on the inside, holds the drift on the outside. That's how much speed he threw into there. That's incredible. Going through the right-hander now. Elliott's got this under control, but just for a little bit of perspective, these guys are going quite a bit slower, I believe. We're about to ping Sector 2, so we'll be able to get an idea how much they held each other up by a good second or so compared to Scott Bugner, who you can see in Jack McIntyre's rearview mirror now. Elliott misses the apex. It's a tough corner, that that left-hander. Sets up the right, but it doesn't mean McIntyre can get through for now.
Yeah, here's a little interesting fact as well. So with the previous race 1 results taken into effect, we've got Jack McIntyre obviously leading the championship, but actually Scott Bugner has overtaken Ryan Elliott for P2 by 2 points. So I tell you what, if I've worked this out correctly, if Jack Mac can get past Ryan Elliott finishes second and Scott Bugner finishes third, that'll mean Jack Mac in first place in the championship, but Scott Bugner and Ryan Elliott tie on points in second.
I'm glad you're trying to figure that out because that just makes my head hurt. Mainly because I'm trying to follow this. McIntyre around the outside. Elliott's not giving away the apex to the left, is he? Now, we're side by side. I tell you what, here comes Scott Bugner. McLaren looking pretty strong here, it has to be said. The top 3 running McLarens. The Aston Martin and Chris Shepherd may well worry them slightly. Bugner's looking to the inside of McIntyre. He's not defending it. Bugner goes through into second place. How much longer, though? Because he's going to have to just try and nudge his way through Ryan Elliott, who well could slow him up slightly here as McIntyre goes back up the inside. Where do you want to be in this fight? I don't know. I'm guessing my position, though, watching it. It's absolutely awesome. And I think Bugner's got second place. He's going to go try around the outside of Elliott because he has no other choice. If he wants to hold second place, there's contact through the left-hander. McIntyre gives him enough room. Brilliant driving. Bugner takes second.
And look at Chris Shepherd. Chris Shepherd's looking at this going, you know what, boys, I want a bit of this. It's something like a bit of a McLaren battle. And I tell you what, there's a space for an Aston in here. Scott Bugner there. How the world he managed to get that move done on Jack McIntyre there and not lose time to Ryan Elliott in front, I do not know. But Scott Bugner, I tell you what a... Oh, Chris Shepherd with a spin. That's huge news. Andy Dorman up into P4 in the race. Callum Newsham overtakes him. Oh, there's Andy Dorman going sideways as well. Boys, keep these cars on the track. But I tell you what, I'll go back to Scott Bugner. What a drive he's doing so far. And I tell you what, with the recent news about his nan, very sorry to hear that. I tell you what, I want him to win this race more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a fitting way to sign off the week, wouldn't it, for him? And especially knowing that she used to watch this as well, which it sort of just makes it even more heartbreaking, even more pulling at the heartstrings that we want Bugner to do well. That doesn't mean we don't want McIntyre to do well either, but, you know, sometimes extenuating circumstances do come to the front, don't they? Elliott's leading the way.
She was a regular commenter as well. She was actually a nan who'd used tech as well. So, yeah, you know what? Brilliant to see. Jack McIntyre, though, all over the back of Scott Bugner here. They're just starting to battle a little bit, and this is meaning they're losing a little bit of time on Ryan Elliott there in the lead position. But I tell you what, still 11 minutes left of this race, and I'm already on the edge of my seat.
I tell you what, if they were karting, they'd be tapping their helmets and pointing forwards, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Come on,
they would.
Catch the people in front of us as Bugner goes a little bit wide because McIntyre showed his nose. He was too far back, but that's the power of the fake, isn't it? It made Bugner lose the apex, and that made him... Oh, who's that? That is
Callum Newsham.
Callum Newsham. It's gone back to the pits. Callum Newsham's evening is over as McIntyre decides to go rally crossing slightly over the bumps. And all of a sudden, this has opened up just a touch of a gap. Now, is this enough of a gap for Bugner to get his head down? How quickly can he get into the rhythm? How quickly can he catch Elliott before McIntyre starts making him come offline again? That's the crucial thing. Elliott, we've been noted for potential driver of the day already this evening. Bugner's got to be up there as well, it has to be said, because his racing has been absolutely sensational. The way he absorbed pressure in race 1, the way he got through McIntyre then and is absorbing it now. Ryan Elliott, after being punted off in race 1 with a recovery drive from outside the top 10 to 5th, and now leading the race, is certainly up there as well. Let's see how it finishes, Dave, and maybe we can make our minds up from there.
Yeah, I would indeed. And actually, we're just on the stealth bombers there, I'm going to say, with Mick Sutton and Brad Smith. Just looking at this, Jack McIntyre with a move down the left-hand side of Scott Bugner. This is going to be a brave move. Is he going to have to try and put it around the outside going into turn 1? This must be about 140 mile an hour at the end of this straight. Scott Bugner just slightly later on the brakes there. Jack McIntyre with a mid-corner slide, but Scott Bugner just doing enough to hold back a little bit there, mid-apex, and just mean there's not a gap there for Jack McIntyre to take advantage of that overspeed.
Chris Shephard on the outside of turn 1 then, deciding that it's his race done and dusted. And I hope it's not the same issues that he was having at Shanghai, because that would be a real shame. He will lose all the ballast, though, that he had on this race, so maybe he'll come back fighting at the next round. However, you can clearly tell, Dave, that you can still fight and get some race pace under your belt, even if you've got ballast on board. Jack said that, you know, it's just a track that suits him. He likes the car. He's got it set up to a T as well. And he's just enjoying his time here at Barcelona. But it's not always as easy as it looks with that weight on.
Yeah, exactly that. And I tell you what, I would say the team name of these two cars, but I might be getting it a little bit wrong. I might have to make sure I get it exactly right. Premature acceleration here. Brad Smith and Mick Sutton doing very, very good to do a little bit of team tandem driving here as we speak. So Mick Sutton just behind Brad Smith, looking very racy actually, and looking forward to seeing whether Mick Sutton just find a little bit of a gap there just to put his nose. In fact, he's going to have a look. As I say that, I mean, he must be listening to us now up the inside of Brad Smith, not quite managing to get the job done. I would suspect that's maybe a little bit of traction control just kicking in there, really holding his car back, because he didn't seem to get off that corner in the same way.
Yeah, traction control, holding back on some premature acceleration there. Hopefully it doesn't spin him round and end his day early, because that would be disappointing for all involved. Anyway, let's have a look at the times at the moment, because Ryan Elliott putting in some green sectors, Scott Bugner putting in some green sectors, but look at this, McIntyre still falls the outside. He's not done and dusted with this. There's 8 minutes left. He's not at all thinking of the bigger picture here. Bugner maybe trying to just chase Elliott down, thinking, come on, let's just leave this to the last 5 minutes. Let's catch up the race leader, and then we can fight it out, because it's not like Elliott is a guest driver. Elliott is in the championship running as well. And at the moment, the more McIntyre fights Bugner, Elliott will close up on McIntyre. So he just needs to chill out and maybe think bigger picture.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think, you know, Jack's probably a slightly more consistent driver than Scott Bugner here in front. But Scott Bugner just seems to have that outright raw pace on certain laps and just starts to gap him. Whereas Jack Mac, he's just sat there being patient, and he's probably going, come on Scott, I need you to get a little bit closer to Ryan, otherwise I'm going to end up right on your back, and I've got to put my nose up there because I'm a racing driver.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's the classic Senna quote, something gap isn't there, something you're not a racing driver. So yeah, that's what we're looking at right now, isn't it? It's the classic one. Everybody knows exactly what I mean, so there's no point trying to get it exactly right. Elliott, I mean, let's face it, Dave, we didn't see much of him in race 1. We have seen quite a lot of him here in race 2. He's not pulling away, but he is driving very well, isn't he? He knows full well he doesn't have to defend. He's not overly defending. But crucially, he's not really making any mistakes either, is he? He's not losing ground on these drivers. You know, he's about half a second away, and he seems quite happy with it. Andy Dorman in 4th place, equally doing a brilliant job, with Andy Carroll in 5th. And you know, these top 5 drivers, top 6 drivers, and top 5 drivers, yeah, are just doing a fantastic job of keeping it consistent. And I just cannot believe the race, respect, and room. They're going to prove me wrong here. I can imagine. That these two drivers, McIntyre and Bugner, have given each other all evening long. It's been sensational.
Yeah, it really has, and it's actually really refreshing to see racing this hard and yet no contact at all. And I think you probably agree, Jack, that the racing at Alton Park at the weekend in the British touring car could probably take a leaf from this sim race. And bear in mind, you know, there's no consequence of having a little nose-to-tail contact. Oh, talking about nose-to-tail contact, that's a bit of premature deceleration there, I believe, going on between the two cars. Nick Sutton looking like he got maybe spun by Brad Smith there, looking at the position of the cars. Hard to say, but unfortunately that team managing to find themselves on the exit of T1, not where you need to be. Scott Bugner maybe losing out a little bit on the lead here from Ryan Elliott, and I tell you what, the heat is on from Jack McIntyre just behind, isn't he?
It is, yeah. I think if Elliott doesn't make any mistakes here, he'll be confident of a race win if these two keep messing around with each other. Bugner doing a brilliant job at just absorbing the pressure yet again. You know, it really is a masterclass on how to defend, because a lot of people, you know, you think defensive driving, you think, oh, you got to be on the white line for every single corner on the inside. It's not the case. Drivers cannot attack on you can't overtake on every single corner. And, you know, some you can lunge at the inside. Turn 1 at Barcelona is one. The hairpin down the hill is another. You know, there are opportunities for lunges down the inside, but a lot of the time it needs to be clearly alongside to even have a think about going for an overtake. And McIntyre isn't clearly alongside for a lot of these corners, and that means Bugner doesn't have to worry about him as much.
Yeah, and I just wonder whether this may be a little bit of the weight playing a part. It looks like when Jack Mack gets on the brake, so Scott Bugner, whereas, you know, a lead car, you'd expect to see the lead car's brakes come on first. They almost brake at the same time, so maybe that's a little bit of that weight, meaning that Jack can't use that advantage of a little bit of that straight line speed to get him on the brakes. But I tell you what, both these drivers here need to do exactly what you said before, just to tap on the head, go use your head a bit, let's go forward. Ryan Elliott isn't that far ahead, let's go and get him. But actually they're battling a little bit too hard here and losing a little bit of time.
Our broadcaster Tom O'Farrell has actually just told us as well, and pointed out that McIntyre is just so much quicker mid-corner, because it's not all about who's the latest on the brakes, Dave. It's about how you blend off them as well, isn't it? It's about how you use the brake, and it looks like McIntyre is hitting the brakes, loading the car with the weight, and that's just, you know, he's loading the outside tyre wall, and that's just allowing him to come off the brake a little bit better. It's a smoother approach to the driving, isn't it, at the moment? And that's why McIntyre's minimum speed is so much higher than Bugner's, it appears. And there's a huge lunge up the inside here. McIntyre not messing about, last of the late breakers potentially. Bugner doesn't get the cut back. McIntyre's gone through.
Yeah, that to me looked a little bit obvious there from Scott Bugner. I don't know whether that was maybe him just pulling aside and go, Jack, go on. It's, you know, we've been battling now for a good 8 minutes and we're not really getting any further. Maybe he thinks Jack's got a little bit more pace. He's going to let him push, see if he can catch up to the battle of Ryan Elliott. Then if them battle, then he might have a bite of the cherry for that lead. So smart driving from Scott Bugner. I think that was completely intentional there. But what you were saying there before, Jack, you know, it's one of them things that I think a slow car teaches you really well. Things like minis or go-karts even. It's all about keeping that minimum speed as high as possible, and the fastest driver is one with the highest minimum speed. Is that the right way around? I know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you mean, yeah. I was going to say, really, a lot of people might think the way to go quickly is by using the accelerator. The way to go quickly is actually how you use the brake, isn't it?
It is exactly that.
How you come off the brake is almost as important as how you go onto the brake. You know, obviously going onto the brake the correct way allows you to get off it in the correct way as well, because you slow the car down properly. But it's the way you come off the brake. And the earlier you can do that, the more minimum speed you carry in without missing the apex, obviously. And then it's as early as you can on the accelerator. The accelerator is a very simple thing. You press it and the car goes very loud and it goes quite quick. The brake is the technical bit. That's where the top drivers really earn their money, and that's why you see drivers really, they fly through the corners at speeds you never think you'd be able to do. The accelerator, as I said before, is a relatively easy thing to operate. Jack McIntyre is absolutely flying it. Elliott's been caught instantly.
He has indeed, so this probably shows how much pace Jack Mack has actually had. A minute left of the race, so there is going to be one more lap. But look at this, we've seen this before. Ryan Elliott puts up the wall. As soon as he gets a car right on that bumper, watch his apex speeds, he'll slow it right back, make it a really hard job for McIntyre to get past. But this is exactly what Bugner needs to see the advantage here. He's going to see these drivers slowing each other down, trying to gauge it and trying to do a double whammy and get to them in the same corner.
Tell you what, they're not worried at all, are they, about clattering over those curves? It's making me feel casting just watching.
Well, they're not paying for it.
No, exactly. They're not paying for it. Exactly that, are they? I'm amazed the cars haven't broken, to be honest. It's quite sensational. On to the last lap we go then, because 20 seconds left of this race means we will be on the last lap now. And look at that, Bugner. He's just filling those mirrors, isn't he? He's giving it a go, trying to put McIntyre off as much as possible. But look at that mid-corner speed and the way he carries it through the left-hander as well. Elliott's going to have his work cut out for him here if he wants to hold on to this race lead, just like Bugner did in race number 1. And I have to say, it's about that time where we have to start thinking about driver of the round, Dave. Elliott or Bugner, and I think it depends, actually, where McIntyre finishes right now, isn't it? Because Bugner absorbed the pressure of McIntyre all race long for race number 1. Elliott's having to do it for a lap and a half. If he can do it, it'd be absolutely sensational. As Bugner looks on the inside of McIntyre, McIntyre went for the move, and sometimes if you go for the move and you don't pull it off, all of a sudden you're under pressure yourself. And look at this, Bugner giving McIntyre just a nudge. Oh. There is a touch of racing room, but equally there's a touch of contact as well. Now, we saw that earlier on, but it was the other way around. McIntyre gave Bugner the room. Bugner didn't look like he quite gave McIntyre enough room. Elliott survives another day. All of a sudden, second and third are fighting. Elliott will probably take this race victory if he can keep it clean. McIntyre won't be impressed. He'll be wanting, there we go, he's equally trying to get that accelerator on as early as possible, isn't he? He is up for a race, second place here. He wanted the race victory. He's not going to get it. He's not going to want to settle for third place either, though. He's already had to settle for second. At the moment, second is the best he's going to manage to do as long as Elliott keeps it on the black stuff. As Elliott goes and McIntyre clatter over the curb. Bugner's just about hold on to it. A huge slide to the back end there by McIntyre. I think that's going to give Bugner second place. And McIntyre comes third. The race winner is Ryan Elliott.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pleased you're commentating on that. I tell you what, I was on the edge of my seat. That was nip and tuck there, wasn't it, really? Absolutely phenomenal performance there by Ryan Elliott, by Scott Bugner. And there wasn't much room given there. There was a slight little gravel dip there. But to me, that was just pure determination for Scott Bugner to go, right, Jack, I'm going to give you 2 laps. Go for it. But I tell you what, it was the way Scott Bugner went, right, I'll give you a chance. I'm having second place back.
Brad Smith coming across the line there just ahead of Mick Sutton and may have had contact earlier on, but luckily these two drivers did manage to finish, and I don't think they missed any, they fell down the order too much. So let's go through the results before we have a chat to our podium sitters and before we announce driver of the day as well. Scott Bugner did not take the race lead. Don't know why he's appearing on top of my timing tower. I'll look at the game instead. Ryan Elliott took the race of victory with Scott Bugner in second place. Jack McIntyre, again, on the podium in third with Andy Dorman on fourth place. Andy Carroll was in fifth. Brad Smith in sixth. Mick Sutton in seventh. Kenny Press in eighth. Shephard and Newsham ended up in the pit. And I don't know, I think we're all unanimously agreed, including Tom in the broadcast booth, Dave, saying Scott Bugner, driver of the day. Ryan Elliott did very well, but Scott was having us off our seat. Hearts pumping throughout the entire evening.
It was. It is honestly, I know people are going to think this, it is incredibly difficult to try and pick a driver of the day when we've seen 3 drivers out on the grid there that all deserve it, really, if I'm completely honest. Jack's outright performance and pace was phenomenal. Ryan Elliott's comeback in race 1 and a race victory there is also undeniably fantastic result. But for me, the way Scott Bugner managed to soak up all that pressure from, you could see, a faster Jack McIntyre behind. And then in race 2, some of them opportunist moves that he did, for me, just shows the racecraft. He left the room, he let Jack go, and he managed to get back the move. For me, a brilliant, deserving driver of the day award for Scott Bugner there.
Yeah, absolutely. It is worth noting, I think, personally, Ryan Elliott in a very close second place as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's the way the cookie crumbles, and you have to give shout outs to the drivers that we feel deserve it at the end of the day. So Dave, you've got our podium sitters for race number 3, 2 of which are very similar to the podium sitters in race number 1, but why don't you go and have a chat to them anyway?
Well, indeed, and we'll go through to our P3 finisher. I mean, a very, very similar race, Jack, there in the grand scheme of things to race 1. Incredibly tight racing, and actually the sort of race I really would have loved to been part of there and really get your nails dug into it.
Yeah, another good one. Probably a bit more disappointed with that one about the result. I think I really could have chanced for first there, but Ryan made it difficult to get past at the start, and then once I had 2 of the team cars around me, I think it was always going to finish in that order. They can position both of their cars and push me out wide or put me in the place where it's disadvantageous for me. So yeah, well done to those guys. Credit where it's due. Still a podium though, 2 podiums with max ballast. I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was probably another point I was going to say. I was saying how difficult it was to choose a driver of the day. For me, 3 drives there that really deserved it, and your name was definitely amongst them. To put that performance on with 60 kg in the car as well. Phenomenal drive there. I mean, looking forward into the next round, you've obviously got a good championship points haul from today's rounds on everyone else. 60 kg into the next round. Round Spa, you must be thinking that's a little bit of a worry, maybe.
Maybe a little bit. Spa's going to be a tough track with the weight, but just got to try and keep it consistent. I mean, I've got the Spa 24 coming up this Saturday, so I'm going to be tuned into Spa.
You're going to know the track.
So yeah, so hopefully that'll either go in my favour or I'll absolutely hate the sight of it by Tuesday. So could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, Spa's not one of my favourite tracks anyway, but I'm sure you'll go well enough there, Jack. Huge congratulations on taking away a P3 finish, and I tell you what, it's looking good in the championship standings as well.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I'll move on to our P2 finisher, Scott Bugner. I mean, you had us on the edge of your seat in race 1, but probably even more in race 2. A phenomenal drive there, and actually why we awarded you driver of the day as well. So you've got a nice set of AOC headphones heading your way after this race as well. Phenomenal drive today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Obviously, it's Jack's right. It's difficult when you got two cars in the same team. We're going to try and work together where we can. Excuse me, but yeah, great. Well done to Ryan. He drove really well and consistent, and well done to Jack because I really enjoyed both races, and they're definitely so 2 of the best races I've done in a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you know the championship results, but it has meant that Jack McIntyre has obviously got the lead of the championship so far. He still carries the 60 kg, but now it's put you and Ryan on exactly the same points going into the next round. I mean, it couldn't be closer fighting for that difference between a sim chassis and a seat.
I've already got a seat, so Sim's mine. But no, me and Ryan have said, we'll work together in this one, and whatever happens in the last one, we race for ourselves. We'll still, won't be stupid, but
yeah,
if we're battling, then yeah, obviously, everyone to me in the last round's an enemy. So we'll see what happens.
Well, that's the racer inside you there, Scott. Huge congratulations on taking 2nd place. A double podium finish here at Barcelona. And as I said, massive condolences towards you and your family regarding your nana, and fantastic reward bringing you driver of the day as well.
Thank you very much.
I'll move on to our P1 finisher, Ryan Elliott. They didn't make that easy towards the end, did it? That's for sure.
I had an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, we were, I didn't actually have any comms with Scott, obviously, through that race, but we sort of had our game plan, and when Jack got back through on Scott, it was, do I go forward for myself? Do I try and help? But then Jack was on my backside before I could even think about it. So, yeah, it was just a good race. I mean, it was a shame what happened in race 1. I could have been, 4 points closer to Jack in the championship, but
yeah,
it's nothing against Chris for that one. It was just unfortunate, but I'd say Spa's next. It ends up being okay. Me being in P3, I get 10 kg less than Scott, even though we're on the same points. So yeah, I have high hopes, but ideally I need to go out there and and dominate him and Jack in both races if I want a chance.
Yeah, well, you've heard what Scott said now. It's every man for himself going into the final round, and we cannot wait to see how you get on there, Ryan. It's going to be a hell of a battle if it's anything like today. Huge congratulations on taking a P1 win and a brilliant haul back as well in race 1. I said to Jack already, it was so difficult choosing the driver of the day, and it was between you, Scott, and Jack. To be fair, all three of you are quite deserving for that driver of the day round. So massively impressive today, Ryan. Congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing how you do in the next round.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you very much.
And there we go, Jack. 3 drivers. I think you'll agree, probably the stars of today sort of dominated the stream, but for the right reasons. What racing we've just seen.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, the VRRC League, the AOC Gaming League of Champions powered by VRRC. Again, throwing up another brilliant night of racing. And to be honest, can't wait for it. To be honest, I'm quite sad that the GT4s are over next week. We have another finale, and what a finale it's setting up to be as well. Jack McIntyre, all he really needs to do is finish semi-solidly. 2 top 6 results will probably secure him a Sim Race 5. Scott Bugner and Ryan Elliott with some late pace there coming in at the end of Barcelona. They'll be hoping to push forward as much as possible as well. Shephard likely to be out of the championship running now, thanks to the fact that he retired at that race 2, which is a bit of a shame. Andy Dorman will be hoping to maybe pip into to 4 as well. And then we're on to the final mini JCWs as well. Oh, it's all getting me a little bit too sad, Dave. So why don't we just round out the stream, shall we? It's been a fantastic evening of racing. I hope you guys at home enjoyed it just as much as me and Dave quite obviously did. Congratulations to all the drivers, and thank you to everybody who commented, liked, shared, followed, subscribed, did whatever you wanted to do. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you this evening. My name's been Jack Oliphant, and alongside of you has been Dave Marshall. We'll see you later.
Between the two of them, the inside of coats, Parker gets too heavily involved, and that's Whitehead and Coates.